Hey, what's up everybody? It's Lids, and we're back for some more Gwent, and today we're playing the new Trial of the Grasses seasonal event, which is an alternate game mode in which any unit that appears on the board gets damaged by 2 and then boosted by 4. Unless it's a Witcher, in which case it doesn't get damaged, it only gets boosted by 4. That means Witchers are meta, but there's also a new archetype that is extremely good in this event, so let's go take a look at the deck. So today we'll be playing a Northern Realms Royal Inspiration deck, and use that to help support a bunch of Grace Knights, because any boosts on our cards will make it much easier for us to activate our Grace abilities. And that means that we'll be, as our centerpiece, be using cards like Damsel in Distress, the Knight's Scenario, and so when we trigger Grace, we'll get additional boosts, and we obviously have a lot of Knights that will have Grace that we're looking to trigger, so that will be cards like Reynard to go along with that scenario. We'll want to play him early in a round. And then, along with that, we'll likely use the scenario to summon out Squire, and with Squire, activate this order ability on our next turn to power up Knight's Errants, so that they get boosted by 1 every turn, and also put them next to 2 boosted units, and because almost every unit is going to be boosted in this event, it's very easy to set this up to get boosted on both sides of it, so that'll turn this into a 2-point per turn engine, or if you use the Squire to set it up, a 3-point per turn engine, which means with Trial of the Grasses boosting you up as well, this is going to immediately trigger the Grace. So again, Grace, really easy to trigger in this event, which is why Knights are so good. Then, on top of that, we can use stun banners if we want to get more units on the board to help us get more cards next to those Knight Errants so that they can get boosted more quickly, more easily, since these are obviously going to get boosted immediately from the event. Then we do technically have Redanian Knights. Now, the order of operations here is such that, well, they're going to get damaged from Trial of the Grasses and immediately drop down and lose that armor, so that they'll still get the boost, so they'll be a 6-point card with 2 damage, and that means that although they won't turn into an engine, they will no longer get boosted by 1 every turn. You can, however, still use your leader ability on them, and toward the end of the match, when you've already used your leader ability a few times to boost a Grace unit up to the Grace threshold, you're looking for cards that are almost at that Grace number, and this can be one of those. So that is probably what we'll be looking to do in round 1. And then in round 2, we will break out, in particular, Vysogota of Corvo to give us tons of additional boosts, and ideally, you're probably going to want to hide him behind Donimir of Troy to help him be a little bit safer. And then once you have those guys out there, you can then proceed to boost, of course, a whole bunch of other cards. Most significantly would be Coen, though, because Coen is a Witcher, so he'll get boosted from Trial of the Grasses, and then when you activate his order ability, he will boost up any other of your cards that have the same amount of power as him. So basically, you try to get a bunch of units on the board, and you get them, as many as possible, up to the same number as Coen, and that means that the high-end potential for Coen is crazy if you can manage to match up all those boosts, and Vysegerd is generally the best way to make that happen. Other things you can do to facilitate that a little bit would be also to play one of our other Witchers, the Griffin Witcher Ranger, because toward the end of the round, when your opponent probably has a whole bunch of units on the board, this can turn into a pretty solid point slam, and then you can transfer over those boosts either to Coen to make him a much bigger card, and it's just going to be a little bit hard to boost someone else up to the same number as Coen, or you boost someone else up to a big number to make it easier for them to match Coen's boost number. So either way, great way to set up Coen, or if you have another Grace unit that you're not otherwise going to be able to hit the Grace number on, then this is a way to set it up as well. So that's good for that purpose. And we do also have Prince Anseis, another knight, and one that we would very much like to be the recipient of some of those boosts. So, in particular, if you can put him next to one of those Knight Errants when its Grace triggers and gives shields to the adjacent units, then Anseis loves the shields for his dual ability. And also, an early round option for probably round 2, but you could use her, or rather, round 3/round 2 whenever you're doing the Vysogota stuff. Queen Meve is similar in that she will also boost a whole bunch of cards on the board. And you can also use, toward the end of the round, Keldar, because once you're at Adrenaline 4, he will spawn in a Witcher student every turn, and those Witcher students are getting boosted because they're Witchers, so that's 6 points per turn, which is amazing. Just want to keep a row relatively empty for him, because this does eventually take up a fair bit of space. And with all those boosted units from Keldar and from our other sources of boosting, Vissegerd on your second to last turn is a great finisher to give you a lot of damage once you use that order ability on your last turn. But before you use that, you break out the Yrden because, of course, your opponent is probably doing a whole bunch of boosting as well, so reset whatever row is most highly boosted and then finish off by using the pings of damage from Vissegerd to finish them off. So there's a look at the deck, and like I said, it is a combination of those Grace Knights for lots of boosting, and then some damage to go along with that, and the resets from Yrden. So let's go see it in action. Alright, so going up against Skellige here, and they'll go first. Okay, so in round 1 here, seeing how we have Vysogota, I'm thinking him plus Coen is likely what we're building around in this round, and we can use Donimir to help protect Vysogota just in case. So I think that's what we'll focus on, and then having maybe even Prophet Lebiota in this round. We'd like to be building around our scenario in round 3 in that case, but we don't yet have it, so that's a little bit concerning. Don't necessarily want to be leaning on that. Let's get rid of the Squire. Knight Errant, I mean, perhaps we'd like to save that so that we can hopefully get our scenario later on. So yeah, let's work with this. Drakkar, they like the self-damage on that card. So yes, I think what we'll go with here is Donimir, followed by Vysogota, so he gets as many charges as possible, and then Prophet Lebiota. I mean, we could put him down before Vysogota, that means fewer charges for Vysogota, though. I think we'd prefer to have more charges on Vysogota. Depends a little bit, I suppose, on if they do anything to shut down Donimir, because if this immediately gets answered, then we're perhaps a little more concerned about the frailty of Vysogota. And Herkia is annoying on several levels, because she will, of course, continue to deal damage to us, and that will also make it considerably more difficult for us to use Vysogota to set up Coen to maximize our boosts on our side. So hopefully we can still make that work, but that'll be a little bit tricky. Maybe the shields from Prophet Lebiota will help us out there, but again, the question is, it's going to be one of these two. Which one do you prioritize? Do you want to get the 2 extra points on Vysogota, or do you play Vysogota earlier and get more boosts from him? I think we go that route still. Then it'll be Prophet Lebiota. Okay, Eskel will get highly boosted. But now let's get Prophet Lebiota out here. He notably does not have a shield himself, but he will give shields to cards when we play things next to him. So that would be things like Redanian Knight, for example, would be a great candidate. And of course, as we were saying, Coen, although he doesn't need it as much since he's a Witcher, so he's not going to take the self-damage from Trial of the Grasses. So let's do this now. And this is crucially important for Redanian Knight in particular, because otherwise the 2 damage on Redanian Knight immediately removes its armor, so it is not going to continue to get boosted every turn in that case, whereas if you go this route, the order of operations is such that he will still take the damage from that and not get the shield from Prophet Lebiota. Feel a little deceived. Okay, another Drakkar. Now, this could, of course, be the recipient of a leader ability charge if necessary, but let's hold off on that for now. Let's get out the Dun banners for some thinning here. That is usually a very nice card to play in combination with the Knight Errant, so that you get an easy way to get a bunch of boosted units right next to it, but again, we're going to want to save that Knight Errant, I think, for a subsequent round when we have our scenario. This time we will get the shield on this Dun banner because we played it. This one gets summoned, so it does not get the shield. I'm deliberately delaying Coen a little bit because I don't want him to get unnecessary damage from Herkia. Because the higher we get him, the more potential we have to really maximize our pointage in this round. They're going to focus on this Redanian Knight just because it doesn't have Donimir defending it, or not. I mean, they could use Herkia if they really wanted to, but okay. So now let's go and either do Tridam Infantry or Coen, and we could also use Griffin Witcher Ranger to to make Coen even bigger, and if we have enough charges on Vysogota, makes for a really effective Coen there. So, the longer we wait, the better for just about all those things, but they are starting to pull away a little bit, and we're just saving up our power here. So I think we might need to start setting some big things up soon. So let's make sure that we get Coen here. So he's immediately at 7, which is not the same number that anyone else has. 9 wouldn't be bad, because we do have several cards on 9, but I think we'll, on our next turn, use Vysogota to try to set that up. And maybe combine that with something else, like a Griffin Witcher Ranger melee row, giving someone a super boost. Possibly even Vysogota. Yeah, I think we might go that route. So this should, I would think, still be doable for us to catch them. Because they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 units in this row, which means we can get a whole bunch of boosts. Don't forget, the Griffin Witcher Ranger is still a Witcher, so it's going to get a bunch of boosts from that as well. Pass the boost over to you. Can we get people up to 15 apiece? Gonna be kind of tough here. Don't think we're going to be able to reach that number for anyone else. So, in that case, we could just trigger this Grace. Get 1 extra boost out of that. Then we do this, and we get up to 80 points. Even after the boosts on Eskel and the damage from Herkia, it is enough for us to catch them. So we'll take the round 1 win. Alright, so now we're hoping to see our scenario as the thing we build around for round 3. To draw into Yrden is definitely nice, though. And Meve can synergize really well with, well, in some ways, some of the things that we just did in round 1. So I'm hoping that we still have the means to set her up here. Tridam Infantry without Vysogota, probably not a great card for us to build around here, because we don't have that many ways to target a ton of boosts on one specific unit without Vysogota. So let's dump you. Squire can work with our scenario, but again, we still need the scenario itself, so I think we might still be fishing for that. Okay, and Knight Errant is good. Probably better than the Squire by itself, but we did play one more card than our opponent in round 1, so I think we just dry pass here. And we should have Last Say going into round 3, which is crucial when we have a Yrden. Okay, we didn't really have anything that we were planning on using from our graveyard, so that Squirrel shouldn't matter. Okay, so Spores is not totally necessary when we have Yrden, but for the most part, people try to have a bunch of boosted units in one row and then have one really big boosted unit in the other row to try to make it hard to choose which row to Yrden. So having the Spores is still maybe not the worst thing. Let's dump Tridam Infantry. Anseis is definitely a big pickup, but we still do not yet have our scenario, so I think we dump Squire, and if we, well, I mean, we can use it on the Knight Errant still. It would certainly be a preferred recipient of the summoning from Damsel in Distress, but we still have Royal Decree if necessary, so, well, we don't want to see that Kaedweni Knight, though. Okay, so this is definitely a brick in that case. That's a card that we would want to just summon out with either the scenario or something like Royal Decree, so to have it in hand is definitely not a good thing. As for what we want to do in this round, though, I think we'd like to get Meve out as early as possible, and then what is going to be the recipient of our Royal Decree? It could be Reynard. That'd be another good early card, but I think Keldar would actually be preferable, because he can give us a ton of boosted units, and that combined with Meve is huge. So I think we go that route here, in which case we're going to want to play Meve and many of our other cards in this row, and then pretty much dedicate an entire row to Keldar. Because, I mean, he's not going to have a ton of time to spawn in more things, but that is going to take up a lot of space. Okay, then what else do we want to get out here early? Vissegerd will be late. Probably still afford to play him in the melee row there. Anseis, if we had a lot of boosts for him, we'd want to make sure we get him down early, but we don't necessarily have that. So I think what we might want to do is get the Knight Errants out here as quickly as possible, and perhaps set up some shields on Meve. And out of curiosity, yeah, this would trigger the Grace here immediately, but I think we'll wait one turn at least. Try to get another unit on this side of the Knight Errant before we do that. especially because we could make that unit Anseis, who benefits a whole lot from receiving a shield. So I do like the sound of that. Of course, the earlier we get the other Knight Errant out, the better. So it's not totally urgent that we go that route. So we could consider it. Actually, Meve is going to trigger on this turn. So bear that in mind. We're going to get an additional boost from that. And either way, I think we're probably still looking at Anseis here. Which means we're definitely going to want to use leader ability on this knight on our next turn. Okay, they're megascoping, presumably that quartermaster, right? So now let's go for this Knight Errant, and we also like to have 2 boosted units on either side of this. So let's go here. Oh, except, okay, well, it's going to take a little longer to get the shield on Anseis now. Oh, well. Definitely want to do this, because that means we can get another round of our leader ability. Now it's on 4 power, which means I want to wait a little bit before using it on this Knight Errant, but we will likely choose to do that relatively soon. Okay, Sucrus, presumably that's to set up Ernachad. So here comes leader ability as well, with Patricide, which will be a big point slam. They'll spawn in a bunch of these Deafening Sirens, which will immediately get destroyed. So now I think, in anticipation of next card being Ernachad right here, where it takes no damage, let's make sure that Anseis can take out Sucrus on this turn. And then after that, we're not nearly as concerned about Ernachad, because he'll still be able to take damage. So, and we have other things on the board that will continue to get boosted, even if we can't play subsequent units. So let's make sure that we activate this Grace ability, because in doing so, that gives Anseis a shield, which means he can now get rid of Sucrus, even though he has 1 less power. And so now that should significantly slow the combo they were planning to use. We do need to play another card here, though, and I think we might just get down this Kaedweni Knight, or no, we should get something that we can sneak past Sucrus, or rather, past Ernachad, especially because Adrenaline 4 is now active, which is great with Meve, because again, we're going to get a whole bunch more cards through Keldar, and yeah, Ernachad as expected. But for the most part, we've made a point of playing all the units that we really needed to play. So now, I mean, you will take damage whenever we play a unit. So, I mean, we're going to sacrifice something. Probably just going to make that the Kaedweni Knight, because it's not particularly important to us. We could reset Ernachad, but I think we'd like to save his Spores, because what we'd like to do is, toward the end, finish with Yrden, and hopefully, you know, if they have one really big row with a ton of boosted cards, and one row in which they have a single highly boosted card, we Spores the single highly boosted card, and we Yrden the row that has, in total, the most boosts. But anyways, let's sacrifice you. Down you go to Ernachad. There is the Meve boost. And again, we're getting a whole bunch of boosts on all of our units here, which is nice. They deliberately boost back up Ernachad, which makes him now, I think, the most highly boosted card. For what it's worth, that is going to cause some trouble for Vissegerd if we can't find a way to boost him up or weaken Ernachad. So this might even warrant that we do go for Spores here. It'd drop you down to 7. Sort of the order of operations here, I think Trial of the Grasses triggers before it checks for how much damage Ernachad does, in which case Vissegerd will just barely survive, but don't quote me on that. We also get an extra Witcher Student when we play a special card, so that helps out with Keldar a little bit. Okay, Oniro, I imagine they have a Geralt of some variety. They've one more card in hand, so maybe this is Geralt and the other one is Geralt as well. No, it's Vesemir for Point Slam. So, of course, we will proceed to reset most of those boosts. Ooh, okay, so if Trial of the Grasses triggers before Ernachad, which, again, I'm not certain about, that would mean Vissegerd would get up to what? Take 2 damage, but he'd get boosted up to a 9, so he would just barely survive Ernachad. But don't know if that's actually going to happen. So we're about to find out. Because we do need to play Vissegerd on our second to last turn, otherwise he doesn't have time to use his order abilities. And we have a lot of boosted cards, so if he survives, he is worth a fair bit. And no! Wait. What? Okay, I did not totally follow that order of operations there. I suppose we could have Yrden's on Errant first, and it might have worked, but have we already reset him? Okay, so yeah, it's Coen into this is gonna be Yrden. Or Igni. Which is gonna remove this 24. Okay, but I think we're still looking pretty good here. You're gonna continue to get boosted. Meve will trigger, and will obviously Yrden, and we should double check with the biggest rows. Plus 5, 6, 7, 5 more, 12, 7 more, 19, 5 more, 24, 29, versus 4, 9, 14, 19, and this is a double 5, so 29. I already forget what the number was there. Mental math. Alas, they're pretty close, right? They're pretty close, aren't they? So let's do this. Maybe it was this row. I honestly don't remember, but it's enough for us either way. Even after take a little bit of damage. Oh, it was. I forgot about the longship. That was what killed Vissegerd. But either way, certainly after the Meve kicks in, we have plenty of points to take the win. All right, so going up against Scoia'tael here, and they'll go first. Okay, so we have a few things of note here. We have our scenario, which is definitely something we can build around in round 1 if we'd like. Do we have the knights to make that happen? We have at least a few, so that is possible. Probably prefer to get rid of Kaedweni Knight in our hand. We also have Vysogota. That'd probably be something we'd like to save for a different round, though. So let's get rid of you. Dun Banner does give us more cards on the board, which can be helpful. I think we have enough knights that, well, we... One... Eyck for a second. So I'd like to summon out the Squire rather than play it directly from hand, but maybe we still... Okay, Knight Errant. That's very nice. Yeah, so we can summon a Squire with Damsel in Distress. Is probably still the way we'd like to go. And then play Knight Errant and power it up with that Squire. Melee row. Dolbathana Sentry. That's a little bit weird. Okay, they're going to move a bunch of our cards. I mean, that is concerning for Vysogota, but I think just confirms that we will build around Damsel in Distress in this round, and Vysogota for the next round, when hopefully they are not planning to do a whole bunch of movement. So, let's go here. And we could go Knight Errant, but I think we'll maybe save that and use Squire to set up the Knight Errant in our hand. Okay, Feign Death. That certainly tells us a little bit more. And at least with this Vernaseal's Commando, that means they want to be pure elves, which is interesting in this event. I mean, I'm curious to see what they're trying to build around here. But, I mean, we're also expecting a waylay. I'm not too worried about that. I think we will... Let's actually go Dun Banner here, because that will get us more units on the board. Which means that once we do get Knight Errant out here, it'll be able to get a double boost. So let's go this. And we will not use Squire just yet. Next turn we will, to set up this Knight Errant. Just want to have boosted units on either side of that Knight Errant so that it gets powered up more quickly. I think that's going to be our primary engine, really, for this round. We'd also like to get Reynard. I suppose we could have gone Reynard next. Probably should have gone Reynard next, but that'll be our... probably our last knight. Ooh, okay, now that does stink. Fortunately, we do have another Squire in hand, so I suppose it's not that bad. In which case, maybe because we wanted to go Squire to set up Knight Errant, we instead prioritize... I mean, we could either do this, then this, or we do Reynard next. Because in both cases, these are cards we want to get out as early as possible. So they do generate value over time. So... maybe we go... maybe we do Reynard first. I'm going to try to split our units a little bit between rows because... And I may still have a Yrden. They're putting up some good points here, though. So when we do play this Squire, for what it's worth, we are going to trigger the last chapter of the scenario, and in doing so, we will get a mad charge out here. And, you know, we'll throw it on probably the Squire, to be honest, because wants to make sure this powers up our Knight Errant. Not as much time as we would like to make that happen. Well, let's actually put you in the melee row here, so we have a card on the other side of Reynard. And, I mean, you could make a case for using it on Reynard, triggering his grace, but kind of like to at least have the option of using our leader ability to make that happen. I mean, I guess we'll do it. So now we have the choice of using his order ability here, which will boost any other boosted card. It's going to be Squire into Knight Errant, and Knight Errant's going to go there. Okay. So we might use this Tridam Infantry as a sacrificial lamb. Because I'm not sure what this is, but it could be a spring trap. Which I think the order of operations is such that Knight Errant technically would still survive, especially if we use Squire first, because I believe he will get boosted up before this triggers. It's what? 5 damage? Which means +2 gets you up to 5. Trial of Grasses damages you by 2, boosts you up by 2, so you're 7. Then I think you get hit, so then you're 2. I'm not 100% sure about that, though. So I think to play it safe, why don't we just do this? Especially because it was not the trap that I thought it was. Admittedly, of course, we'd like to get this out as quickly as possible. At this point, it's going to be a finisher. It actually will trigger Grace immediately if we combine it with this Squire. So it's not terrible. And now Malena at least explains the reasoning for the melee row double on the sentry, so I am curious what they're going for here. It is going to make it harder to have Knight Errant do its thing. But let's go Squire here, Knight Errant here, and that means at the end of this turn, it will trigger Grace and get boosted, of course. Boost these guys, and if they try to move this, and in doing so, make it so it's not next to as many boosted cards, it's still going to be next to this boosted Squire. So it's not going to be quite as potent, but it will still be decent. We could use leader ability here and get a free refund out of it. It'll be slightly weaker, but it is perhaps still an opportunity is worth pursuing here. Yeah. I mean, we are otherwise still in the lead on even cards, so like maybe it's not necessary. It's still good value, so we'll take it. It's perhaps overkill. We'll use Reynard here, because that might be the last card that we play. This now becomes a very obvious target if they do have tall removal. I'm curious what they do here. They're maybe setting up a Yrden in our range row. Rayin. Okay. Is that enough? It is for them to catch us. Now it puts us in a tough spot here, though, because... Well, how many points are we scoring at the end of this round? We're getting... Or this turn. 3 from the Knight Errant every turn gets us up to 57. That's not enough. So we do need to play something if we want to win this round. Meve is a lot later than we'd like to be playing her. Eyck needs one more turn before he can actually use his ability, because he does not have Zeal. Keldar would activate immediately. We'd kind of like to have saved him, though. I mean, well, that's the case for everything here. So, yes, it's Keldar. I don't love it. It definitely can't be Vysogota, though. That will remain our win condition for subsequent rounds. And this is not yet triggered. Is this going to boost adjacent units when we pass? Maybe, in which case we might need a little bit of a margin here. Gaetan, that's going to be a decent point slam worth of damage. If we lose the shield, which we do in one case, we actually get boosted in the process. Would have liked for this guy to get hit, but alas, he did not. And now, what I'm curious to see is we're getting 6 points every turn from Keldar. Getting 3 points every turn from Knight Errant. So that's 9 points. Just not quite enough for us to pass them without playing anything here, which stinks. Am I forgetting something? No, it's 6 and it's 3, so it's 9, and that gets us, yeah, 2 points shy here. And they're also, thought they still had one source of automatic boosting per turn, but maybe now that they have Witchers, that's no longer the case. So, I mean, Meve would be the obvious choice at this point. It is too late. Or, well, if this round goes the full length, she will have time to boost everyone. Eyck does not realistically have time to do much. If we don't play Meve now, she will legitimately have no time to do anything. We might just play Eyck, though, for the sake of playing a unit and potentially threatening removal, even if we're not planning on using it. He's not a big point slam by any means. He's mostly there for the removal, but we just needed to play something so that we can continue to stay in contention here. And that's, at this point, probably the last card that we'd be willing to play no matter what. And I know if they go further here that we can then use Eyck to remove a 20-point unit, which is pretty scary. So that's not that big, but perhaps it is still worth us making a move here and throwing away Meve and getting the 20-point removal, because that would be enough. Well, hold on. 6 points. 3 points, so 9 again. Gets us tied, but now they do have a little more in the way of automatic points per turn with this Cat Witcher, giving them 2 damage. And so they technically would still be able to pass without playing any more cards. They win 1 card down. I think we're still playing Meve here. I think we are. And she is, at this point, just a card we were playing for the sake of being able to take another turn. Because that is huge removal there. We definitely like long rounds. So a shorter round with Vysogota is not something I'm thrilled about. That should put us in a, yes, very strong place to win round 1. And at the very least, we've won round 1 on even cards. So what we can do is we could try to push in round 2 on even, but I think more likely we'll try pass, force them to go a card down, and then have double last say in round 3. Okay, so Anseis with boosts is a great form of removal. Vissegerd, we'd ideally have combined him with particularly Keldar to get as many boosted cards on the board as possible. In the short round, he is substantially worse, so could potentially even consider swapping him out. Spores, I mean, if they have one specific card that they're planning to get highly boosted, then this could be a good way to stop it, but I think we're still looking at, yes, Donimir to help protect Vysogota should be much more reliable. So I think we'll stick with this for now, and we'll dry pass here. Force them to go a card down. Gains Seal, which is, whoa. That's a huge commitment to be using as a throwaway card. Okay, and I love seeing Coen because that is fantastic when combined with Vysogota. That means that we can make a point of trying to boost up Coen and other units to the same number to get the maximum value out of Coen, especially when we have double last say. That should be really useful. The Kaedweni, or rather the Redanian Knight, will immediately lose its armor, and it'll get a boost, and it'll deal damage. It is a nice card to use our leader ability on, because it's still a nice recipient for grace, but still might prefer a Knight Errant here, if possible. We have the Royal Decree, which we could potentially use to make that happen. Definitely don't want Kaedweni Knight, though. Okay, there is Knight Errant. Alright, it's Stick a Castle, and those Cat Witchers, they will be a bit of a nuisance. 8 points, and 1 point per turn of damage, potentially more, once they get down to Adrenaline 3, and they might be able to get some more movement support happening, so not a huge fan of that. We'll still go Donimir first, and then follow that with Vysogota to set him up as early as possible, just keep him safe with Donimir. Gonna have to ask ourselves, well, I think Royal Decree will end up being Geralt Yrden as our finisher, in all likelihood. Okay, double on the sentry, as I said, movement support for more boosts on this guy. So the boosts are not actually that big of a concern for that reason. Assuming that we will be able to reset them, we'd like to hopefully have all their best cards lined up nicely in a row for us to maximize value from Yrden, but won't know until we see. Okay, not a big fan of the trap. Now, I'm imagining the previous one that they played must have been, yeah, Serpent Trap, because it just never triggered. Because we did not play any special cards in the previous round. So that means that's not what this is. So, theoretically, Royal Decree is safe. Could be a Spring Trap. Probably is a Spring Trap. In which case, once again, we want to make a point of playing something here that we're confident will survive. Which Vissegerd definitely would. It is definitely an earlier Vissegerd than we would like to have, for sure. But maybe to play it safe, we do that. Again, Trial of the Crassus, I think triggers first, which I'm pretty sure means whatever we play here is technically still safe. But just to be absolutely certain about that, I'm going to go this route. Oh, okay, well, it's not what we expected. What would have the... I mean, we might have been thinking about playing Knight Errant, in which case that would have been a little bit less damage, but anything else would have been... Coen would have been a little bit less than Vissegerd. We do want to get this out quickly, though, because, of course, the more time we have, the more it'll receive those boosts. Okay, there's Gesras. So he's, of course, going to be their big card that they are building this round around. He does give them more boosts in the range row, which means that really stinks. Probably should have used a preemptive Royal Inspiration just to keep Vysogota safe. Of course, it meant we weren't going to chain it with additional Grace procs, but it's probably worth doing. Coen, we could still use Leader ability on him and maybe enable him a bit, but I think first we're going to go Knight Errant. And with Royal Inspiration, we could get him up to Grace 9. Which we should probably do. Technically speaking, if they have Yrden, we'd like to do as many boosts late on as possible, but still, I think we're gonna need to do this now. Oh, well, we would have loved to have gotten it on Anseis. Yeah, no, that we should have waited for Anseis to get down here to put the shield on him, because that makes him substantially more valuable. Okay, they're using their leader ability charges here. And Eldane, which they only have one trap. Two artifacts, though. So, some, but not amazing, value out of that. And now we can start to get a sense for what the correct timing of Yrden should be. They have one more card to play. Next turn, they'll have all cards in the ranged row. Yeah, I mean, we'll have time to react, I suppose. So, they are going to deal damage on this turn to our range row, which is currently where all of our stuff is shielded. So, I mean, this might still be the time to... It's basically just a matter of, is it Coen or is it Anseis? I think we'll go Coen. He's up at 7, which means that he would boost Vissegerd if we were to use him immediately. He doesn't have an additional source of boosting unless we use Royal Inspiration on him, which I think we might need to use him now. Anseis is going to get up to 8, assuming we play him in the range row, which I would like to do. So that's why we wanted Vysogota, was to set ourselves up for matching up our boosts more effectively on these guys. Actually, we might at this point be looking to go Anseis melee row, because the timing is such that a reset right now in their range row makes sure that we get all these highly boosted units, so I think that is probably our best option here. So let's go for the Yrden. And we will put it in our range row, because if we put stuff in the melee row, for the most part, that means that we're just giving more opportunities for them to get damage out of Gesras and out of the Cat Witcher. We don't quite have enough damage to destroy these guys, unfortunately. I mean, we could obviously destroy these Elven Deadeyes, which is not really a huge deal because they aren't engines, and they aren't even going to get boosted on this turn anyway, so let's wait on that. I mean, we have, theoretically, already passed them, but they're going to get some more value out of this movement, so we need to be a little bit careful here. Let's make sure that we seal the deal by going Anseis, and with him, we can make sure that we get rid of Desros, and, you know, boost him up if we needed the extra power. Again, would have ideally had him have been the recipient of Coen boost by matching up all the power with Vysogota, set up for a bigger one, but either way, we'll take the win. So there's a look at a Northern Realms Grace Knights deck for the new Trial of the Grasses seasonal event. If you liked the video, then make sure to hit the like and subscribe button and leave a comment down below to let me know which other cards, archetypes, and factions you'd like us to experiment with next. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.